Yo, 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 what is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Hurdle. This is the Executives of Fantasy Football YouTube channel and on Player Profile YouTube channel because it's Tuesday night, baby, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And tonight we're going to be talking about the one and only Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 3.0 that came out today. A bevy of mocks came out today, including Mel Kiper. If you fancy that tickles your fancy, you can go have at it. But we're going to talk about Daniel Jeremiah. Matty and myself, we just did a mock draft over on the Draft Rankings YouTube channel. You can go check that out. We went back and forth every other pick. Matty's mock draft came out last Tuesday. Mine's probably going to come out Thursday or Friday this week. So to cut it in half, we're going to go ahead and discuss Daniel Jeremiah's 3.0 round one. Matty, I'm going to pull it up. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And I will say this as someone who does mock, you've been doing them, so you already know what I'm going to say. It came out last Tuesday or Wednesday, but you could already throw it in that trash barrel because so much happened over the course of a freaking week that there are a number of different ways that these teams will probably go about drafting.
And we appreciate you guys for tuning in, tapping in here. Just remember to click that like button. Please click subscribe as we're going to continue to do these shows Tuesday and Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the duration right now. This is The Hurdle, episode 57. And now we're going to talk right here. Daniel Jeremiah, mock draft 3.0. Number one overall, Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams. No surprise here. They just traded away, of course, Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But number two overall is Drake Maye. Drake Maye to the Washington Commanders. And I'm just going to cheat a little bit. And I'm going to scroll down just one spot here because this is the discussion here. 2, 3, 4. We are about, I think the number is like 40, I don't know what the hell it is, 40 days, 45 days, whatever it is. It's about 5 weeks away from the NFL drafts. I'm probably overshooting there. I think it might be 38, whatever. Doesn't matter.
I think it's 38. Yeah, I think it's like 38 days.
And Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, nobody has a clue really what the order is. And we need to figure this out over the course of the next couple of weeks. And a trade will tell us exactly what that is. If the Vikings do move to 2, we're going to be pretty confident that's going to be for Drake Maye. If they do move to 4, I don't believe it happens until draft night because it's just there's too many moving pieces here to push all the chips in and go up to 4. That's why I'm so under the impression that the Minnesota Vikings move up to 2, because if you move to 4, you leave the door open for other things to happen, like Denver to move up, the Raiders to move up, whatever. You can't control that if you move up to 4. So you don't move up to 4 until draft night when you're, New England's on the clock and you already know who Washington picked it to. And you continue to have those conversations with Arizona. So Drake Maye goes here at number 2 to the Washington Commanders, followed by Jaden Daniels at 3, and then JJ McCarthy to the Minnesota Vikings at 4. How do you break this down? And do you believe in this Vikings to 4 thing? Because this has been getting a lot of the helium. And, you traded, I think, up to 3. And I told you I was going to do my mock. It's going to be up to 2. And that's what it's going to be. When it comes out later this week, it's going to be Vikings going up to 2 to get Drake Maye. So what do you think about these 3 picks right here?
So I have the hardest thing that I have seeing is the Arizona Cardinals moving out of 4. They already have a second first-round pick. They have a ton of picks starting in round 2 and beyond. And I think their winning window has to start opening up in 2024. Kyler is not getting any younger. He's in the kind of the prime of his career. He's now going to be a full year and a half or so, maybe a full year and a half from his injury. I don't know if they're going to want to give up the idea of taking their wide receiver 1. And I think the more and more evaluators, whether that be for fantasy football, NFL, I think what we're all coming to realize is Neighbors, Adunzi, and Marvin Harrison is a tier in and of itself, that the 3 of them can be divvied out in any which fashion, and no one's really going to believe that they were wrong. I think they're really great prospects. So I have a hard time seeing the Cardinals move out of 4, and I have a hard time seeing the Vikings push it, and for the exact reason you just mentioned. They're not going to want to hit accept until draft night, until they know how everything is playing out, until they've made sure, because what would be the worst process for the Vikings is trading up to 4 and then seeing someone trade up to 3, what you just mentioned. So I think they wait until draft night. And then what I think ends up happening at draft night is they realize, why would we go all out for 4 when 5 is the next pick? And everyone knows the Chargers are ready to move back. So if the Cardinals decide, you know what, we want our wide receiver 1, Vikings can go, no problem. Let me call up Harbaugh. And the storyline is there. Harbaugh sets up his guy, J.J. McCarthy, up for success with a good head coach, good weapons, in a fun division. This is a way for Harbaugh to get his guy in the right slot, to get his guy in the right team, and to get his guy away from his conference, away from his division. I think that's what ends up happening. So I like the 3 quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3. Feels like the draft is a flat circle, right? We say it all the time. That's what's going to happen. I still think 4, they stay pat. And I think at 5, we see that J.J. McCarthy movement.
Is it cockamamie? This is going to sound very cockamamie. If you are the Cardinals, though, and you want to move down, and 11, 23 next year's first, that gives you 2 firsts in 2025. If you move down from 4 to 11, that gives you 11, 23, 27, 35, 4 in the top 35. Plus, you already have 66, 71, and 90. So 3 more in the top 100. That is a gauntlet of picks, and that would allow you then to be at 11 and potentially move back up to get a Roma Dunze. Mm-hmm. Now, Matty, here's my question. You're the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings hold 11 and 23. The Vikings come to you, and I'm going to knock on your door, and I'm going to call you. I'm going to say, hey, Matty, hey, Monty, I got Jefferson here. You need a receiver. You want to take Marv at 4. I got Jefferson. How about you come back down to 11, and I'll give you Jefferson and 11. Now, as a Viking fan, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to do it because J.J. McCarthy's there. But as a Viking owner, GM, whatever, you get to keep 23 and next year's first. Is Jefferson and 11? Is that plenty to get you to come down from 4? Got to get my quarterback. I got to get my quarterback, man. And again, this is personally, I wouldn't do this. I don't think McCarthy. If it was for Maye, I would debate it, but for McCarthy, I'm not. But as a Cardinal, would you take Jefferson and 11 to come off of 4?
I would need that third piece because what we're talking about, if we're going pick for pick, is 11, 23 in next year's first. I don't know if Jefferson needing a contract is worth 2 firsts. So what I would probably ask for is 11, 1 of 23 in a first next year in Justin Jefferson. That's what I would start with. And then, of course, it's too much, but you are holding, a lot of leverage here because we're talking quarterback and because they see the fit. Now, as a Vikings fan, like you mentioned, I would not love it because the appeal of getting a young quarterback is the weapons, is the opportunity to potentially sit for a year behind Darnold and see the game plan roll out and have it done correctly. What I think can start unraveling rather quickly is you trade Jefferson, Addison goes down with injury, and now you're watching Darnold get ripped to shreds. The fan base is calling your name, and then you get thrown in there against the Detroit Lions on the road and get ripped apart in your first start, and that throws away so much potential development. So I think it's a thin line if you give away Justin Jefferson.
All right, so Daniel Jeremiah, Jaden Daniels to the New England Patriots at 3, J.J. McCarthy at 4. The Jets, he had a big trade in here. The Jets moving up to 5. This one, at this point, we're reviewing it. Mike Williams just signed a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Jets. So that makes this is the number one rule when you're doing mocks. As soon as you get a mock finished, it's garbage. You can finish it. You can turn it into your editor. That thing gets published. You can take it right back out. You can burn it. You can put it in paper shredder. You can throw it in garbage because things like this happen. As soon as you publish something, the Jets go out and sign an alpha and X type wide receiver, and that would, of course, be the role that Marvin would be looking to fill for the Jets. But nonetheless, he does have the Jets moving up to pick number 5 to get Marvin. So his head was on the right circle. They are looking for a big wide receiver. They ended up getting Mike Williams. Number 6, Malik Neighbors. The second wide receiver off the board goes to the Giants. How do you feel about Malik Neighbors to the Giants in a role that perceives to be the number 1 role? next to Jalen Hyatt. There's no Darren Waller there. And it's either Drew Lock or Daniel Jones throwing him the football in fantasy football.
I think the volume would be enough to keep him afloat, but Malik Neighbors to the Giants looks an awful lot like Garrett Wilson last year on the Jets. Supreme talent, guy who can get open all over the field, but needs better quarterback play to ascend to the level we all see him going to. But this is a good landing spot at 6. You see, 120, 130 targets potential. So overall, we're not going to be mad about it at all, to be honest.
All right, we'll move on to number 7 with the Tennessee Titans. But first, I want to appreciate everybody who is in the chat down here. Cooper jumping in and says, ready to review this mock, clearly inferior to the one we did last night. Last night over at South Harmon, we did a 3-round NFL mock. You got to go check that out over at South Harmon on YouTube. Gooner Boy, what's going on, brother? D-Man says the Chargers need a wide receiver. Well, the Chargers didn't draft you at number 5, so we're going to see who they took at number 10. Famous Jay, what's going on, Matty? What's going on, Cody? How we doing? Hit that like button, as the freak says. And Josh Moore says, what's up, fellas? Isn't retaining Justin Jefferson the reason the Vikings didn't overpay Kirko? I think 95% yes. And that's the reason. That's the reason Kirk's not there. But also Kirk is dealing with an Achilles, and smartly, the Vikings are trying to get younger at the position. So I think those things all work in tandem. Appreciate you guys all. Please click that like button. Please click subscribe here on the YouTube. Number 7, Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans. A lot of conversations at the NFL Combine circled around the offensive tackle position, worrying if a tackle would be there. And they love Alt. They love Fashanu. They prefer Alt here after the Andre Dillard thing did not work out, according to Daniel Jeremiah. Number 8, Matty, this is another one where it seems now it's currently just chalk. Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
Is this what you've been seeing everywhere? Because it's kind of what I saw last night at the South Harmon 3-round mock. I had the Falcons pick, and I actually gave them Quinyon Mitchell, and I thought that was pretty dirty. But I do think Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, whichever they prefer, is likely the pick.
And I think because of the ambiguity of the pick is probably a reason why they'll end up trading back if Aroma Dunze is there, if Joe Alt falls, if someone wants to move up to get player X. I think 8 is now a prime spot for a trade back, because the more mocks you do, the more you realize that Turner is only going 8 because they're picking 8. You know what I mean? Like, I think he should be going more in the teens. So I could see them trading back. And then also, Dallas Turner is probably the most premier pass rusher in this class. But if you're the Falcons and you can get more assets, aren't you okay with Verse? Aren't you okay with Liatu Latu, who we saw at his pro day at 267 pounds, look really shifty, and we know he's got a big bag at getting after the pass rusher, artist at tackling the quarterback. So I think this is a prime trade back spot. But as far as the player in Atlanta, Dallas Turner has become chalk. I believe that's why I had my mock 3.0 as well.
It's going to be tough to come off of Turner going to the Falcons. Number 9, Roma Dunze. He keeps Roma Dunze here despite Keenan Allen going to the Bears. Keenan Allen, of course, getting up there in age. So now you have Keenan Allen, predominantly I'm guessing out of the slot, DJ Moore and Roma Dunze working with Caleb Williams, and all of a sudden DeAndre Swift, Roshan, Cole Kmet, all of a sudden we're talking about a top tier, or if not, you're talking about high end tier number 2 grouping of talent here at the skill positions for the Chicago Bears. I think it's right.
Mm-hmm.
But Fashanu's still out there. And Verse is still out there.
Oh yeah, but this was the brilliance of bringing in Keenan Allen for a 4th. Was this pick was going to be the chalk play, and then they get Keenan Allen. All of a sudden, now they do have the flexibility to move back. Because remember, now they've traded a 2nd. They just traded a 4th. They have 2 firsts, but then they don't pick until the 3rd. So, I mean, they are a team that might look to trade back. But Roma Dunze going there makes it makes so much sense, because I am a firm believer in strengthening your strengths. And they got a good offense that's going to get better. They're going to give Caleb Williams every chance to succeed. Ryan Poles inherited Justin Fields. Ryan Poles inherited that situation where Fields was supposed to be a backup for a full season, got thrown in there against Myles Garrett, where he threw for like 26 yards, got destroyed, and it just felt like they weren't able to do right by him. But that was not Ryan Poles' fault. Ryan Poles, like I said, came in a year after his draft. This is his opportunity to right that wrong. So Rome Odunze on the board at 9. Daniel Jeremiah is one of the best in the biz at, putting his ear to the ground, being plugged into the NFL, and doing these mocks. He loves Rome, which means the NFL loves Rome. And he continuously keeps him in the top 10. So sometimes with the smoke, there's fire, especially someone as plugged in as Daniel Jeremiah. And man, oh man, Cody, this would be
the nuts. The nuts.
Dude.
The nuts.
Dude.
The NFC North all of a sudden is a gauntlet. And we're talking about the Vikings, who are the worst team in the division on paper after this top 10. The worst team on the paper.
Right.
Just traded up to get a quarterback. And they still have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Aaron Jones is 29. I get it, but that's a lot of talent for a team that's the worst team in the division.
Yeah.
So pick number 10, the Chargers traded down from 5, and they get Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, the offensive tackle that has risen over the last couple of weeks or months, I should say. He projects to plug in there right from the jump at right tackle. Not a lot to really converse over right here, other than he's getting drafted ahead of Olu Fashanu, and the Chargers trade down from 5 to 10 to get it. So they add a couple of picks, and they still get a tackle, which is the smart decision here. We've seen a lot of mocks at number 5 without them moving back, going after Bowers, going after Neighbors. But I think the process to be sound is to go after the offensive tackle position. If they can move back to 10, I'd be very happy. Number 11, the Cardinals move down from 4 with the Vikings, and they, in turn, get Jared Verse off the edge with their first selection in this draft. Given what's available, Fashanu is still out there. They got Paris Johnson last year. The possibility of pairing Fashanu with Paris Johnson. Otherwise, at wide receiver, the big 3 are gone, so you'd be kind of reaching to get one of those receivers like a Brian Thomas, etc. Cornerback also, no cornerbacks off the board yet right now. Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. Jared Verse, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Olu Fashanu. In this situation, where are you leaning there?
I think here I'm going Quinyon. I'm taking cornerback 1 off the board, a true difference maker. Give me my shutdown corner at pick 11 because I got 23 and 27. If I'm trading out of 4, I'm getting 2 Vikings picks. I have 3 first rounders. And although Fashanu is probably he is the second best offensive lineman in this class, in my opinion. I think Fuaga going to the Chargers is more of he can move inside more delicately, which is probably going to be the route an offensive lineman would go with the Chargers with what they have now. So I'm waiting on tackle till 23, 27 because I love Mims. We've talked about Sumatea. We've talked about Jordan Morgan. This class is crazy deep. So 23 or 27 is where I'm going tackle. I like going Verse here. I understand getting disruptor, but they are a team that desperately needs a corner. And if you don't take one here, you're going to now have to quote unquote settle for CB3, CB4 when you could set the market here and get Quinyon, who in my opinion is by far the best cornerback in the class.
12th overall, the Denver Broncos currently starting Jarrett Stidham at the quarterback position. He don't care. He's going to get Brock Bowers, and Daniel Jeremiah says they can deploy Bowers in the slot, similar to the way Sean Payton utilized Michael Thomas in New Orleans. I think that's kind of interesting. He labels the best player available situation. You have to draft Bowers. Again, they have Greg Dulcich, but the rumors that we got last fall were that Greg Dulcich was indeed on the way out of Denver. Surprised he's still on the roster based on the things I heard back in August. But, Greg Dulcich, Adam Troutman's not a receiving tight end as far as consequence goes, more of a blocking guy than anything in a red zone, a little bit target. Brock Bowers comes in, no Jerry Jeudy. It's Brock Bowers, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims now with Jarrett Stidham and a pretty good run game there with Javonte and Jaleel McLaughlin. What does this do to fantasy? Bowers to Denver. Do you think there's still a range of outcomes for him with a Stidham? We don't know the rest of his mock. If they take Knicks or Penix or something in round 2, 3, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Based on our current knowledge, Jarrett Stidham at quarterback, Bowers 12th overall. In your fantasy, superflex, tight end premium, non-tight end premium.
Yeah.
Is he still belong in the top 8 as far as that conversation goes, just because of the raw talent and the abilities and perceived target share despite the quarterback sucking in Denver?
He's absolutely a top 8, but I would probably push him closer to 8 and be way more comfortable moving McCarthy up to make sure that Bowers is the last of that tier. But for the fact that the Broncos taking Bowers when there's such a glaring hole at quarterback, they have to get desperate. They don't have a second-round pick. Deciding to say, screw it, we're going BPA and taking Bowers means that Sean Payton has big plans for the kid. You can see a lot of volume in year 1. They have no more Jerry Jeudy. And Marvin Mims doesn't seem to be a target guy out of the gate. Cortland Sutton's never been a big volume guy. So I think the volume will be there with Brock Bowers. And we saw at Georgia, right? What's capable of an offense that is based around what Brock Bowers can bring to the table. And it was, I know it's the college level, but it was successful. So I think Sean Payton, who is, still a sharp offensive line, can get a lot out of him.
It's close for me. All right, 13, the nuclear bomb of the draft right here. Michael Penix, 13th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. They have Aiden O'Connell on the roster from last year in late rounds. They signed Gardner Minshew. They draft Michael Penix at 14. Olu Fashanu goes to the Saints. He falls. Trevor Penning kind of flopped at the tackle position for them. They bring in Olu Fashanu with a great value at 14 here. And then our favorite landing spot, we've talked about this one many times, with Quinyon Mitchell falling to 15 to the Indianapolis Colts. Michael Penix Jr., top 15 overall draft pick. This is, as Ricardo in the chat alludes to, this is the chaos that could show up on draft night. If Penix does get drafted 13th overall, it would throw other teams into a tizzy. It would probably throw Denver into a little bit of a tizzy, as they do need a quarterback, and maybe they were thinking, maybe we can get back in the late half of the second round and we can snag Penix, whatever. Now they have to consciously attack a Nix or a Rattler or a Pratt, whatever. Penix here to the Raiders. How you feel?
I mocked Penix to the Raiders in 3.0, but it involved the Raiders coming up from the second round to take them at the end of round number 1, not with their 13th pick. But, like I said, Daniel Jeremiah is plugged in, and he tweeted right before, I think it was yesterday, I think I might choose chaos for my next mock. Well, Cody, you and I both know damn well that if he said that yesterday, that means he had already chose chaos. He didn't come up with this last night. He had done this last night, teased it, and dropped it. He knows something's up. Everyone knows that the Raiders are gung-ho. What was the talk of the combine? That they are hell-bent on getting a quarterback, and they are a dark horse to be one of those teams that moves up. The only thing that might be holding them back from getting into the top 5 to get a quarterback is if the Cardinals decide they're not moving, it's going to be awfully tough for the Los Angeles Chargers and their front office to say, come on in, division rival, come get J.J. McCarthy, where our head coach knows how well and how good he could be. That's going to be their biggest roadblock. But getting Penix at 13, that's a bold move. That means they believe in the kid. And I also think that means we're going to end up seeing 6 quarterbacks in the first round, because I think the teams that were hoping to get Penix or Nix in the second sees number 5 come off before the halfway point. They're going to instantly be getting on the phone to try to get back into this first round because they can't risk it.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty in the second half of this draft and get cooking. I appreciate you guys all tapping in here. Please click that like button. As always, please click subscribe. It helps the channel grow. It helps us grow. It helps the show grow. And we're going to continue to dominate. We have 3 shows coming out this week at the Draft Rankings on YouTube. The Draft Rankings on YouTube. Again, go over there, search it up, watch the videos. We got a mock that came out last night on podcast as well. Tomorrow it'll be the Vikings best possible draft. Friday it'll be the New England Patriots best possible draft. And then we'll have the Hurdle on Tuesdays and Wednesdays nights at 7 p.m. A couple more shows that will be on Patreon exclusively. You can go to thedraftrankings.com, thedraftrankings.com to get those shows and other stuff like rankings, etc. 16th overall, Troy Fautanu, the next tackle off the board to the Seattle Seahawks. He stays in the Pacific Northwest. And as Jeremiah alludes to. He goes back with his offensive coordinator from the University of Washington, Ryan Grubb, who's now in Seattle. 17th overall, cornerback number 2, Terrion Arnold to the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of conversation. I was on Jacksonville radio just a couple weeks ago. They're like, we want tackle. Or no, sorry. We want guard or center. They went out and got Mitch Morse to play center. Maybe that pushes Jackson Powers Johnson. That pushes Graham Barton out of the conversation. They could still use some guard. Maybe they'll just do it in round 2 or round 3. Wide receiver, corner. That's what it turns like it's feeling like right now. That's what it sounds like. It. I can't speak tonight.
The tide is turning.
That's
what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. So Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins, Brian Thomas, something like that is where Jacksonville feels like for me. And then 18th overall, we have still yet to see Byron Murphy come off the board. The Bengals select J.C. Latham. Latham can play a little bit on the inside. However, he mentions here Trent Brown. He must have just added this because Trent Brown signed today. So this must have been
he must have just signed
published. This is a post-published edit. Shout out to Dan Jeremiah as we go through this thing.
Shout out. Veteran move.
Even with the Trent Brown signing on a 1-year deal, he says. All right, so I like it. I like the note here. Shout out to Dan Jeremiah. He's not going to watch this, but I do like the post-published edit here. J.C. Latham to the Cincinnati Bengals. If you are Byron Murphy, are you sitting here in a little bit of confusion as, again, we went over the last few picks. Seattle would have been New Orleans would have been a good spot. The Raiders, of course, go quarterback, so you can say, that makes sense. Denver, you've talked about before, but they go Bowers. Seattle could use a D tackle. Jacksonville could use some interior. Actually, they just signed Eric Armstead. That kind of takes Jacksonville out of the conversation. But Cincinnati, really, at that point, damn, Byron Murphy's going to, where am I going next? And then the Rams could get Aaron Donald 2.0. And they don't. They go Latu. What do you think of these last few picks?
So I think that what we know over the last few years is that the Bengals will choose everything over offensive line in the draft. So why do we think all of a sudden now they're going to buck the trend after spending money again when – I'm just going to put it this way too. This is revisionist history, armchair quarterback, all that stuff. Their 2 tackles are 2 mountain men, right? They call them XL OTs on X. But they're old. They could have done it organically had they taken DeJuan Jones last year, who was sitting in their backyard, and Amarius Mims this year. They could have the young version of the XXL OTs. I loved Latham as a pick. I thought it was a great fit. But after them bringing in Trent Brown, now you're going to bring in I don't see them bringing in Latham here. I think that the Daniel Jeremiah professional move, bringing in the blurb, very smart. I think we've all done it before. Kind of just say, I'm not changing my whole mock. I'll write this blurb in. But his 4.0, I don't think he's going to have J.C. Latham going to the Bengals.
Agree there. Pick number 20, Tyler Guyton. They take Guyton here to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin was, of course, down there at the Georgia Pro Day looking at Amarius Mims. He didn't watch a damn rep of anything. He just talked to Kirby Smart the whole time. Amarius Mims, I think, would be an interesting selection here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Graham Barton, who I just alluded to a minute ago, goes to the Miami Dolphins. On the interior, Nate Wiggins at cornerback from Clemson to the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, if I'm the Eagles, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about Brian Thomas. I have to be thinking about Brian Thomas. We've always talked, maybe the Dolphins want a wide receiver 3, but do the Dolphins really want a wide receiver 3, or do they just want to keep on talking about it for the next 5 years as they continue to run out Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and have the speed to burn in the backfield? So Nate Wiggins goes to the Eagles at 22, and then we finally get the wide receiver number 4 off the board, Brian Thomas Jr. So that means the Arizona Cardinals trade down from 4 to 11 and 23, and they get Verse and Brian Thomas and a 2023 first-round pick plus, likely. For the Minnesota Vikings to come up to number 4. Brian Thomas Jr. and Michael Wilson are the wide receivers for Kyler Murray. Matty, how much do you hate that?
I hate it so much. I think you are. I think that we will be getting exactly what we don't want when we talk about Brian Thomas. We love Brian Thomas as T. Higgins. We don't love Brian Thomas as number 1. Yeah. And he goes to the Cardinals, and either one of 2 things happens, neither of which I think gets the reaches the ceiling potential of Kyler or the offense as a whole. 1, Brian Thomas is the wide receiver 1. Again, we don't like that for his skill set. Or Michael Wilson becomes the 1 and Brian Thomas becomes the 2. And again, we don't really like that for the overall output and the potential of this offense. We talked about it earlier before we hit record. We talked about, would you rather have Verse and Thomas or the wide receiver one of your choosing? After seeing this, I think I would rather have the wide receiver one of my choosing.
I think I agree with that 100% wholeheartedly. I just don't believe this is going to be how it unfolds. I'm just going to be straight transparent about the pick. I don't think this is how it unfolds, period. I don't think the Cardinals are the ones picking their wide receiver one right there. Nor do I believe they believe Brian Thomas is the one. 24, Jackson Powers Johnson goes 24th overall. Interesting note here is Mel Kiper's done 3 mocks now as well. Mel Kiper from ESPN, and he's true the GOAT. I don't know why I needed to reference he said ESPN, but he has not had Jackson Powers Johnson in any of his first 3 mock drafts in round 1. Amarius Mims, tackle from Georgia, goes to the Packers to replace David Bakhtiari. I think that's an interesting pick. I might lean corner here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers go Darius Robinson, a complete tank out of Missouri. Can play edge, can play 3, can play nose, can play the whole everywhere on the defensive line. Goes to Tampa Bay. Kind of a spot that, they can utilize guys like this, and they've slowly built up that entire defensive line. Vita Vea is now like the oldest guy in the room. And as they have Joe Tryon and Yaya Diaby, and you add Darius Robinson in there, and they drafted one more last year. Damn, I can't remember his name. But they've built this entire defensive line back up, and adding Darius Robinson would complete the build back on the defensive line. 27, though, the Cardinals' 3rd pick. We just talked about them getting Brian Thomas. They got Jared Verse. Now their defensive line has Jared Verse and Byron Murphy. That's a big fall to 27.
So by choosing chaos here, DJ let probably the biggest value of this entire first round go at 27. It's just I just have a really tough time seeing an NFL franchise choose Darius Robinson over Byron Murphy. I just cannot see it. I love Liatu Letu. You know how much I like Liatu Latu. Byron Murphy seems to be, to me, such a disruptor at the middle of the field who can stop the run and get after the quarterback. Having him fall to 27, I mean,
it's cockamamie.
It's a little cockamamie and Ozenfort. Like, holy shit. I know I just said I'd rather have the wide receiver one over Verse and Thomas, but that's really more of a reflection on the fit for Thomas there, because the Murphy Verse defensive line infusion, man, that has a chance to rise up as one of the best tandems on any D line in football in the next 2 or 3 years.
The thing is I believe if Murphy falls past right here at 19, I think teams are going to go, holy shit, he's still available.
Call.
And then they're going to watch these 3 teams who don't really need. I mean, honestly, Miami could use him. Losing Christian Wilkins, they could use him. Mm-hmm. So there's a possibility somebody moves up with the Steelers there. But if you're going to draft Byron Murphy and you already have Byron Murphy on your board, I guarantee you Byron Murphy is ahead of Brian Thomas on boards. I'm drafting Byron Murphy over Brian Thomas at 23, and I might move up from 23 to 20 to do it if I'm the Cardinals. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Murphy selection at 27. It gets a disgusting value, but the landscape of the wide receiver position, and Dan Jeremiah has brought it up multiple times, saying the depth of this receiving class is going to push these guys down. This was his opportunity to kind of show us that in the mock draft, pushing Brian Thomas down to 27, taking Murphy up there at 23. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We'll finish it out here with these last couple picks, mostly defensive guys, except for one receiver. So we had Johnny Newton go to the Bills. Of course, that's a hot wide receiver position to talk about. However, Brian Thomas is gone. Kool-Aid goes to the Lions. We mocked this one the other day as well. Kool-Aid to pair up with Brian Branch is a sick Alabama duo headed up to Detroit. Baltimore Ravens go Cooper DeJean. San Francisco 49ers go Chop Robinson from Penn State. And the last pick in round 1, Matty Kiwoom, Adonai Mitchell from Texas goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not Xavier Worthy, but Adonai Mitchell goes to be the X in the offense. The X in the offense with Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. So this is a very interesting offense now. What do you think of Adonai Mitchell in the Kansas City Chiefs and what that does to his stock?
Again, I think It's hard for me to see the Kansas City Chiefs taking Adonai over Xavier Worthy, given what they already know about a skill set as special as Worthy's. And I know everyone gets up in arms when you compare people to greats, but we're talking traits here. We're not talking full-on outcomes. They lose Tyreek Hill. Fast forward, they sign Hollywood Brown. Doesn't that kind of just tell you that they miss that player in their offense? And then right there, sitting at 32. I don't think they go receiver now at 32. But if they're there at 32 and Worthy's there, how do you not put together the most unique, fast receivers that, when we saw Waddle and Tyreek pair up, we're like, there's no way that you can get a faster set of receivers. The Chiefs would have a real chance at getting faster drag racers over in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. I don't see how you passed it up. But if Adonai goes there, R.I.P. Rashid?
No. I don't think so. I don't think it's R.I.P. Rashid. I think they try to utilize Adonai in an X role, which I'm not sure. Like, he basically kind of in a similar role to what he was. There was no true alpha in the Texas offense last year. When it comes to target share, Adonai and X were close. Adonai, of course, is the more prototypical X receiver at 6'4", 195. But Rashi, I think, should get that respect as far as being that talented of a receiver. Hollywood Brown shouldn't. But even the 4.34 speed for Adonai too is impressive. But like you just mentioned, Xavier Worthy bringing a 4.21 down there, and Hollywood Brown probably still being around that 4.30 area, maybe sub. They just went from having no speed to having all the speed in Kansas City. And you got to love that. You can't hate it. That's round one of a Daniel Jeremiah NFL Mock Draft 3.0 review. He's Matty Kiwoom. I'm Cody Carpentier. You can find everything we do, thedraftrankings.com, rankings, shows, et cetera, everything Matty does over at Matty Kiwoom on X, as well as Player Profiler, where he's got a bevy of shows. Myself, I'm over at rosterwatch.com, at rosterwatch on YouTube as well. This is the Hurdle. We'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, talking with our boy Seth Dewald about a little dynasty. We got to update these rankings. Again, this is part of the job, right? Every week, you got to move guys around. We got mock drafts. We got trades. We got free agency in the NFL. So we got to adjust in this game. We appreciate you guys for tapping in. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please click that like button on your way out. Click subscribe. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Peace.